right, everybody talking about this Cougar and dance team, but more specifically, the guy in front, mascot Cosmo the Cougar.
He just killed this dance.
Cosmo is the best mascot in sports.
That's Cosmo the Cougar from BYU. This is the execution at its highest level.
It was so cool the way that BYU was being represented. It was so exciting for everyone because it was an incredible dance.
Homie brought some impressive movements and attention to BYU through Cosmo in a really cool way, and I think you see a trend after that where other mascots are trying to jump in on that.
And nobody really knew who he was, who this dancing mascot was.
Since the video went viral, everybody's number one question is, who is that guy?
For years, while he was at BYU, Charlie Bird was hiding his identity as the Cougars' iconic mascot, but also hiding his sexuality.
Charlie Bird first comes on the scene to everybody else's knowledge. In 2019, Charlie comes out in an editorial in the Deseret News, the church's owned newspaper. It says, "You loved me as Cosmo the Cougar. Now I hope you love me still, now that I've come out as gay."
Like Cosmo the Cougar, actively involved at BYU with BYU athletics, then coming out was like the talk of the town.
Everyone was excited that not only was he a Mormon, but that he was representing BYU as this incredibly talented mascot, but also that he had come out as queer.
And he became like a public figure.
The most common question, how can I be a better ally?
The representation of what it is like to be LDS and gay.
I'm not going to sacrifice my beliefs and my relationship with Christ because I'm gay, because I think he knows I'm gay, and I think he loves me. I know he does.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has changed its teachings about gender and sexuality, specifically with respect to homosexuality or same-sex relationships, several times over the last several decades. The current position of the church is that it is perfectly okay to identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, as long as one doesn't act on it. One of the places where we first see this start to play out in policy is at Brigham Young University. In 2007, they changed the honor code policy at the school that allows students for the first time to openly identify as LGBTQ, again, so long as they maintain a kind of sexual standards that the school had for them as well. BYU students who identify as LGBTQ often fit into this kind of uncomfortable situation where it's not just their church membership or church status that is at stake, but their status as students at the university as well.
Next up, should I go to BYU if I'm gay?
Should they be allowed to openly date here on campus?
Yes, just like us straight students can.
Oh, that's a tough question.
Do you support gay marriage?
No.
No. I wouldn't say that I encourage it.
I loved it. I loved BYU. I had a really good time.
Because I don't want to be the guy who's overly sensitive about everything.
My name is Stacy Harkey. People would know me from, I did a sketch comedy show at BYU called Studio C. I came out publicly in 2018, and most of our audience is like LDS. Utah is very homogenous, BYU even more so. And I am black and gay in this space, and I think that's very counterintuitive to a lot of people's idea of what their experience would be, but I had a really good time. I kind of always been like a water off a duck's back kind of guy until you can't ignore it anymore.
I'm the BYU graduate that had a rainbow flag sewn on the inside of my gown, and at graduation I displayed it in front of BYU and the students, faculty. The reason that was a big deal was because BYU has policies against homosexual relationships. If you're in a homosexual relationship at BYU, you will get kicked out. Being queer at BYU is scary. It's really scary and it's hard.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. I am the co-host for today, Gerardo.
I'm Gerardo Sumano. I work for Mormon Stories Podcast. When I went to BYU Idaho, I came as an international student. I grew up in Mexico. My status in the United States depended on my student visa. When I fell in love and I had a relationship at BYU Idaho, I had that risk. What we decided to do was, let's get married while we were still in school. We can stay together. I don't have to go back. We couldn't tell anyone because we didn't know who to trust. We ended up getting married without anybody at the ceremony. It's one of those experiences where you're like, you can't get back. And now that both of our families embrace us and love us, I would have loved for them to have been there, but that's how things turned out.
Coming out and coming into God's light will be available at Deseret Book later this month.
I pray that for someone, this will be the book I never had. This is something that needs to be said. These are things that I think are important conversations to bring up, and if I'm the one who can bring that, I'm happy to do it.
What Charlie's book does is it's one of the very first to be unapologetic about being gay and say, I'm not trying to change myself, I'm not trying to do anything differently, I'm going to adhere to the church's standards, and yet I'm not going to change who I am.
I teach cycle classes in Provo and in Springville, and I've had moms in these classes who have never really interacted with a queer person, who are very LDS, come and talk to me about Charlie's book, and it helps them with family members, with kids in their ward. And I see that as a success, wholeheartedly.
And so the church is sort of sending these signals out through Charlie, and Charlie through them, that this kind of thing is perfectly fine, and that Charlie sort of can embody himself the new way forward that LGBTQ Latter-day Saints have.
He was presenting himself as this person who was able to follow the rules at BYU, who was happy as an LDS member of the church, who was not having a relationship with a same-sex partner, and who was basically making it work, you know, the dream.
And so in a way, the church had sort of laid the groundwork for someone like Charlie. At the same time, Charlie is taking advantage of that. If you're saying it's possible, I'm going to do it.
But they got married when?
They got married in August at the state capitol.
August of 2023.
Charlie is going into uncharted territory where what he's doing has only been possible to do recently.
Who's a superstar in the church right now? It's Charlie Bird and his husband.
I don't think the church is going to change its doctrines. I don't think it's going to change on this at all.
And a lot of people who have tried doing what Charlie is doing have been excommunicated.
And so my excommunication was very painful for me. If I was famous enough, would I have been protected? If I was well known enough, would I have been protected? If I had published my own book, would I have been protected?
And then Charlie and Ryan are given callings and are allowed to take the sacrament and are left alone. What's the difference?
And I think a big name like Charlie Bird may say, this could be a change because it's big enough that how do you undo this?
Is Charlie Bird without the mask as valuable to my community as Charlie Bird with Ryan?
When I see Charlie and Ryan showing that they're able to participate and that they support the church and they love it and they get to have callings and they get to be queer and be a part of it, it is so frustrating to me. It looks to me that he is showing everyone, look at me, I'm so blessed. I can have this, I can have callings, I can have a husband, I can get married and not get excommunicated. But there are plenty of people who are still being excommunicated for doing the same thing.
I know people have seen that and they're like, oh, there's hope for me. It gives them hope.
I think that Charlie's case, as it stands today, is really an example of the kind of shifting attitudes and even ambiguity that the church has towards this. Now, on the one hand, the church is unambiguous, that it opposes same-sex marriage, that excommunication or membership restrictions are the inevitable consequence to this. And yet, he seems to be skirting the rules, again, in a very public way. How exactly is this possible?
So when I reached out to church headquarters and asked if there was very firm guidance on this, they sent me back to this handbook, and the language was may. Individuals may be removed from the church for being married to someone of the same sex.
And so there is a little gap that opens up in the church's policies around this about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's that transition from must to may, where a lot of church leaders, I think, are kind of leaning on that distinction in order to make decisions themselves about what they think is the appropriate path forward here.
Given that there is this squishiness to that word may, of course I think that there's going to be individuals who are going to interpret it according to their own politics, to their own beliefs on the subject.
Each bishop gets to decide for their congregation, each stake president gets to make that decision, and then when people are upset, the church doesn't take the bullet for it. It's the individual who makes that call for those people who they see it as their eternity being on the line, and it's the bishop that gets to make those calls for them.
We can speculate that, of course, being a tall, good-looking, white Mormon man is one of the reasons why there has been a little bit of a kind of exception to the rule here. Now, again, we can only speculate on that, but that there are certain kinds of privileges that fame, that other kinds of status in the church, that even a declared commitment and a persistent commitment to the church that Charlie has maintained publicly, privately, and so on, it has also been a big part of this.
Because I have a testimony to the gospel, and I love being a member of the church, and I'm gay. And both of those are irrevocable. I can't change any of those.
But then also that there's just this dueling narrative of whether they represent progress or an exception for just these two privileged individuals.
So when I see what Charlie's experiencing and some of the privileges that come from a platform, from being attractive, from being like a white male in this community, from being someone that like a lot of people in his audience can relate to, I'm like, yeah, he has privilege, of course. And does he get benefits from this privilege? Probably. I haven't dove into his life, but I would assume so. Is that bad? What's he doing with it? Is it bad that Charlie and Ryan aren't excommunicated? Or is it bad that other people have been?
The church tries to be really careful on how to handle people like him. And what usually happens is that they're left alone and not being treated like any other person who doesn't have a platform, who can't speak out, ends up being treated.
I do believe that they're not going to touch him, but they're going to continue to let him be the gay mascot for the church because it benefits them. It does. It makes them look progressive. It makes the church look like they're accepting of it and that it's not a problem and that we don't see it the same as we used to, but they won't make any statements about it. They'll just let him dance around in front of the camera.
At any moment, Charlie and Ryan could be excommunicated. They could lose their membership status at any moment. And it could be that even before this is done, that might have happened. They really are at significant risk of that, precisely because they're such a public case as well. And so it's hard to say that the church has changed or is changing when we might just find ourselves in the middle of this story rather than at its end.
I think the question is like, what do you want to happen? Is it Charlie suffering for something that other people should suffer for? Or is it change that we might be seeing with Charlie?
Then I would hope that we would also see that he's advocating for those who are being discriminated against as well, who are experiencing homophobia in the same exact religion that he is in, that is supposed to be the same across the entire world. It's supposed to be the same every church you go into, and it's not.
I would love the church to change. Many people ask me, including my parents, are you gonna come back if the church changes? No, I'm not gonna come back. But I do want it to be a better place for people like me.
You know, Charlie is not the first. And there have been others whose stories also need to be told. And Charlie won't be the last. Whatever happens to Charlie, he's not going to be the last. There are going to be others who are going to try to carve out this middle space. So I think that this conflict over gender and sexuality in the church is not going away anytime soon. It's going to be with us for a long time until an adequate solution that satisfies everyone can finally be found. And maybe that won't ever happen.